2.5, Graphing Absolute Value Functions. This lesson we're going to look at how we can graph absolute value functions on a coordinate plane. The big things to remember that when we are graphing these, if we are graphing and shading below the line, it is going to be less than or equal to. Above the line is greater than or equal to. Greater than or equal to is going to be a solid line. Same thing as less than or equal to. Those are both going to have a solid border line or boundary line. And less than or equal to or less than are both going to have a dashed border line. So let's first look at this function. And I'm going to try to figure out what's happening on that border line. So I'm going to look at the border line, and the border line is the same thing as the absolute value function, except for we look at the border line as equal to. So it's going to be the same thing as last lesson. We're going to look at the transformations, and if that doesn't work, we'll go into graphing the details. And so we can see minus 3, minus 3. And so we have y equals x minus 2 inside the absolute value, minus 3. And so I'm going to go over here, and that gives me my vertex. Is going to be opposite of what's inside the absolute value, 2, same as the outside, negative 3. So 2, negative 3 is the point in which my graph is going to have a sharp turn. I look at my a value, and in this case that is just 1, so that means I have a slope both going to the right as positive 1 and going to the left as negative 1. And so I'm going to plot a few of the points, and then I am going to come back and draw my border line. My boundary line is going to be solid because I have that equal to. And I'm going to graph it in green here. So again, I drew a solid border line because this part right here, there was an equal to there. Now, I'm going to look at the symbol above, and we had greater than, and so that greater than tells me which side I'm going to shade on, and I'm going to shade above the line because it was greater than. And so everything above the absolute value line, border line, is shaded. So just kind of recapping my steps. I first graphed the border line, and then drew in the line based upon if it was greater than, if it had an equal to, that meant it was solid. Not equal to, we dashed. And then I go back and I do the shading. The shading is based upon greater than above, less than below. So let's try to go the other direction. We're given the absolute value function, and we need to take the details from this and create our own function rule. So the line is dashed. So that means I'm either less than or greater than. I am below the border line. So that means that my symbol is going to be less than. Now let's find our vertex, this point here, and that point is at 5, 2. Now I need to find my slope, and going to the right, I went up 1 over 1, so I have a slope of 1 going right. And that means that my slope going left is going to be negative 1. And so whenever that's the case, that means our A is equal to positive 1. I'm opening up, so I know it's a positive 1. And so now let's put all those details together. I have y minus the y value, excuse me, y minus, excuse me, let me start back over, let me do it another way. Y is less than x minus my y value, excuse me, my x value, plus outside my absolute value is going to be that y value. So this goes inside, the other one goes outside. In front, I have a slope of 1, and so I can write the 1, but that's not really needed, and so I just leave it off. That is my border line, or that is my rule. And so we can either go from the rule to the absolute value graph, or from the graph to the rule.